Some scary stories are just fiction, but others are terrifying because they really happened. Tonight, we're diving into 4 true horror stories, cases that were never explained and may never be forgotten. This is Nightmare Cases. Let's begin. It was a rainy night in Arizona, 2009. The kind of night where the rain falls so hard it feels like the world is being washed away. The I-10 freeway stretched endlessly, its wet surface reflecting the dim glow of streetlights. For most, it was just another stormy night, but for one truck driver, it would become a night he would never forget. As the driver navigated the treacherous road, his headlights caught a figure on the shoulder. A man, drenched and disheveled, was stumbling along, waving frantically for help. The driver hesitated for a moment, but his conscience wouldn't let him pass by. He pulled over. The man approached the truck, his clothes torn and his face pale with fear. He muttered something under his breath, barely audible over the pounding rain. When the driver asked what was wrong, the man looked him in the eye and said, "They're still out there. In the trees." His voice trembled, and his eyes darted nervously toward the dark forest lining the highway. The driver, unsure of what to make of the situation, offered to take him to the nearest town. The man climbed into the truck, his hands shaking. They drove in silence for a while, the only sound being the rain hammering against the windshield. Suddenly the man screamed, "Stop!" His voice was filled with panic, and before the driver could react, the man flung the door open. He jumped out of the truck and ran into the forest, disappearing into the darkness. The driver was left stunned, unsure of what had just happened. He called the authorities, reporting the strange encounter. For 3 days, police combed the area. They searched the forest, questioned locals, and checked missing person reports, but there was nothing. No footprints, no belongings, no signs of a struggle. It was as if the man had vanished into thin air. Even his description didn't match anyone reported missing. The driver couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The highway, once familiar, now felt eerie and desolate. It was as if the man had never existed, leaving behind only questions and an unsettling memory. To this day, truckers traveling the I-10 freeway report seeing a figure on stormy nights. A man, drenched and desperate, waving for help. But when they stop, he vanishes before their eyes. Some say he's a ghost, forever searching for salvation. Others believe he's a warning, a reminder of something lurking in the trees. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is certain. The vanishing man on the highway remains a chilling mystery. In 2017, a young couple in Seattle bought their first home. It was old, dusty, and had a strange smell, but affordable. 1 week after moving in, the wife found a small door behind a cabinet. It opened into a hidden room, with children's toys, a stained mattress, and hundreds of Polaroids nailed to the walls. Each photo showed a terrified child sitting on the same mattress. Some were recent. Police were called, but by the time they arrived, the room was empty. Every photo gone. The door, bricked up from the inside. No evidence remained, but the smell never went away. In 2012, teenager Emily H. tragically lost her life in a devastating car crash. The accident occurred late at night on a winding road, leaving her family and friends in shock and grief. Emily was just 17, full of dreams and a bright future ahead of her. The crash site became a somber memorial, with flowers and candles left by those who loved her. Among the items buried with Emily was her phone, a device she was rarely seen without. It was completely destroyed in the accident, but her family, in their grief, decided to include it in her burial as a symbol of her connection to the world she left behind. Life moved on, but the pain of losing Emily lingered. Then, about a year later, something strange and deeply unsettling began to happen. It started with a phone call, an ordinary event except for one chilling detail. Emily's mother began receiving calls from Emily's number. At first she thought it was a cruel prank or a technical glitch, but the calls kept coming, and they always came at the same time. Each call came at exactly 2:37 in the morning. The precision of the timing made it even more unnerving. Who or what was behind these calls? At first, when she answered, there was nothing but static on the line. The sound was faint but persistent, like a distant storm crackling through the receiver. It was eerie but not yet terrifying. Then, one night, the static gave way to something else, a faint whisper. Emily's mother froze as she strained to hear the words. The voice was soft, almost childlike, but unmistakably familiar. The whisper said, "I'm cold. Why did you leave me?" The words sent chills down her spine. It was as if Emily herself was reaching out from beyond the grave, her voice filled with sorrow and longing. Desperate for answers, the family contacted the phone company. What they discovered was beyond comprehension. The calls were traced back to Emily's burial site. Somehow, impossibly, they were coming from underground. Overwhelmed and seeking peace, Emily's mother decided to change her phone number. For a time, the calls stopped and life seemed to return to a fragile normalcy. But peace was fleeting. One night, the phone rang again. The same number, the same time. The mystery of Emily's calls was far from over. Jeremy, a college student living alone in a rented house in Ohio, thought he had found the perfect place to focus on his studies. The house was small but cozy, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. It was the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen, and that was exactly what Jeremy wanted. He spent most of his days buried in textbooks, preparing for exams and enjoying the solitude. But as the days turned into weeks, he began to notice something strange about the house, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. One night, as he was finishing up an assignment, he heard a faint tapping coming from the basement. It was so soft at first that he thought he might have imagined it. The sound was rhythmic, almost deliberate, like someone, or something, was trying to get his attention. Jeremy froze, his pen hovering over the paper as he strained to listen. The tapping continued, faint but persistent. He brushed it off, convincing himself it was just the old pipes acting up. After all, the house was old, and old houses made noises, didn't they? He tried to focus on his work, but the sound lingered in the back of his mind, gnawing at his concentration. He told himself it was nothing, but deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next night, the tapping returned. This time, it was louder. Jeremy sat in his room, staring at the basement door, his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to ignore it, but the sound seemed to grow more insistent, as if daring him to investigate. He thought about going down there, but the idea sent a chill down his spine. What if it wasn't just the pipes? The tapping soon turned into the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate footsteps that echoed through the house. Jeremy's breath caught in his throat as he listened, his mind racing with possibilities. Then came the scratching, long drawn-out scratches that seemed to come from deep within the walls. It was as if something was trying to claw its way out. And then, the whispering began. It was low and guttural, barely audible at first, but it grew louder, more distinct. "Jeremy," the voice hissed, sending shivers down his spine. "I'm hungry." The words hung in the air, heavy with menace. Jeremy felt his blood run cold. He wanted to scream, to run, but he was paralyzed with fear. Frightened out of his wits, Jeremy grabbed his phone and called the police. His hands trembled as he explained the situation, his voice barely above a whisper. The officers arrived quickly, their flashlights cutting through the darkness as they searched the basement, but they found nothing. No signs of an intruder, no evidence of anything unusual. They assured Jeremy that the house was safe, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were wrong. The basement felt different now, darker, heavier, as if it was hiding a secret. Determined to uncover the truth, Jeremy set up a hidden camera in the basement the next night. He positioned it carefully, making sure it covered every corner of the room. Then he waited, his heart pounding with anticipation and dread. What the footage revealed was beyond horrifying. As Jeremy watched the recording, his stomach churned with fear. There, in the dim light of the basement, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was pale and hairless, its skin stretched tight over its bones. The creature crawled out of a hole behind the furnace, its movements jerky and unnatural. Jeremy's breath hitched as he watched it sniff the air, its head swiveling as if searching for something or someone. After a few moments, the figure retreated back into the hole, disappearing into the darkness. Jeremy sat frozen, his mind racing. What had he just witnessed? And more importantly, what did it want? Before he could show anyone the footage, his laptop mysteriously fried, the screen went black, and the video was lost forever. Jeremy was left with nothing but his memories, and his fear. Terrified and unable to stay another night, Jeremy packed his belongings and moved out the very next day. He didn't care where he went, as long as it was far away from that house. The house was eventually demolished, its walls and floors reduced to rubble. But the basement? That was a different story. The basement remains, untouched and undisturbed, a dark and silent reminder of the horrors that once lurked within. To this day, no one knows what Jeremy encountered, or if it's still down there, waiting. 4 real stories, no explanations, just lingering questions. and maybe a few nightmares. So, which one gave you chills? Let us know down in the comments. And hey, if you crave more terrifying true tales, don't forget to subscribe to Nightmare Cases. Because remember, real life, it's often scarier than fiction.